Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi!
Hello friends, I'm back today after the popular reception of my last quest video. Today we're going to work through Aleph-Null's quest, where the Necrons ally with the Adeptus Mechanicus to take down the forces of the Tyranids. I've taken your feedback on board and I will take some more time pausing on the deployment screen so that you all have time to set up as I have.
Hello friends! I'm sorry to interrupt this Nandi video, but I just wanted to quickly step in and thank you all for supporting him in his YouTube hobby. We've come a long way from doo-doo-dee, and I wanted to announce some things on his behalf. He is going to give away a code with the following: 10,000 gold, 1 requisition, and 10 shards of 2 different characters. Vote for your favourite character in the comments. He will also randomly pick from the comments a lucky grand prize winner. This winner will either get a legendary character unlock of their choosing or a mountain of Blackstone, whatever they would prefer. Leave your comment below and back to the usual scheduling.
Everything is in time-stamped order, but on this page you can see the characters and rarities that I used to fully complete this event. I haven't used a single character higher than Gold 1, even on the Legendary node, and I'll talk you through the key decision points for each stage. We'll talk through a couple of key things that we need to understand when fighting the Tyranids on this slide. A lot of the Tyranids have the battle fatigue trait. This means that there is a chance for adjacent Tyranids to flee when one of their adjacent brethren fall. You can see this chance increase from 10% to 50% by overkilling the Tyranid. Tyranids also have the instinctive behavior trait, which means that they move and attack the closest target in range. Both of these traits can be ignored by the presence of a synapse character, which is important to bear in mind, particularly as we fight through some of the trickier stages. For Common 1, we set up left to right, Tangida, Aleph-Null, and Makotep. We have to finish this fight without taking any damage, so we take advantage of summons through Aleph-Null and Tangida to bolster our numbers and distract the enemy. Makotep uses his active while surrounded by 2 Scarab Swarms and causes them to replicate and increase our numerical advantage. Turn 2 is easy cleanup with our healthy characters and army of summons. For Common 2, we position with Aleph-Null, Actus, Tangida, and Immospec from left to right. We will start off by putting Immospec on the high ground to do some damage. The remainder of our units then overload the left flank with an army of summons. We use Actus to repair Tangida and trigger more summons to attack our enemies. Our Scarabs get killed on enemy's turn, but the remainder of our combined forces is more than enough to finish off the surviving Tyranids. Common 3 deploys our units in a circular position. We leave the 2 o'clock position empty and deploy counterclockwise. Actus at the top, followed by Aleph-Null, Tangida, Makotep, and finally Immospec. The idea is to move down the map away from the Tyranid warrior and kill off the weaker Tyranids. Immospec's active and Makotep's basic attack clear the right ridge of enemy Tyranids. We then clear the left-hand side with an army of summons both through Tangida and Actus, as well as Aleph-Null's Scarabs. On turn 2, the Tyranid warrior moves down to attack our units, and our remaining forces move into position to finish the enemy off. For Uncommon 1, we deploy with Actus, Aleph-Null, and Exeter Row from left to right. The main thing to bear in mind is this annoying trait for the Tyranid warrior, Reinforced Hive Node. This gives the unit more armor and block chance, so you have to attack with high damage and pierce. Exeter Row thankfully satisfies both of those requirements, and putting him on the high ground to attack the warrior is some scarabs in the middle. Immospec positions on the bottom of the map to use Overwatch and kill a few Tyranids. We fully expect Aleph-Null's scarabs to die here. On turn 2, Immospec uses its active to kill a few more Tyranids, and then Anophet uses his active to create an army of 4 Necron warriors. Aleph-Null's job is done, and she simply retreats to heal herself back closer to full health. The Necron warriors carry the last turn of the fight, and after checking all of our units are healthy, we end the battle. This is an alternate setup for Rare 1 which uses Makotep instead of Anophet. The lineup here is Mako, Aleph-Null, and Immospec. Here, Immospec kills the Barb Gaunt on turn 1, and Aleph-Null kills another random Tyranid with its basic attack. The key with this strategy is that we summon our Scarabs on turn 2 and use Makotep to replicate the Scarabs and hopefully trigger some fleas from the enemy Tyranids. This strategy is pretty easy and straightforward. We use Aleph-Null to summon Scarabs and then make sure our units are healthy before we finish the battle. I use Immospec as the third unit here, but as you'll see over the course of this battle, he doesn't really offer anything unique or special. Feel free to substitute a character of your own choice if needed. Rare 3 is pretty hard simply because it relies on a fair bit of luck. We have to use flying units here, so the team of 3 is automatically picked for us. We deploy in a triangle with Thutmose at the northward corner, followed by Actis and Aleph-Null in a clockwise direction. We simply cannot kill 7 units in one turn without getting a little bit lucky, and that's the main thing we're looking for here. Enemies to flee through their battle fatigue trait. You start off by moving Thutmose to the top group of enemies. It's really important to target the Termagant that's off on its own with Thutmose's active ability. What you're hoping for after that is for the remaining units to die or flee. Aleph-Null then flies over to the bottom group and uses its active ability. Again, here you're aiming to trigger battle fatigue on the enemies. In the event that either the top or bottom attacks are not quite successful enough, Actis is available as insurance. For Rare 4, we deploy a team of Tangita, Aleph-Null, Makotep, and Immospec. The deployment on turn 1 is shown here on screen, and essentially we cower our Necron units on the bottom right hand side of the screen, while Tangita summons up on the top left. This baits the remaining enemy forces down, and we then use our turn 2 to summon with Aleph-Null. Tangita brings more summons to the battlefield, and the rest of our Necron units simply attack and kill enemy Tyranids. We pass on turn 2 having not used Immospec's attack, and this allows us to trigger Overwatch on some oncoming Tyranid units. The rest of the battle is fairly straightforward. The remaining enemy units are not particularly strong or challenging, and it's just a question of clearing them while remaining healthy with your own forces. Rare 5 is one of the harder battles, and I have 2 different strategies to show you here, depending on which characters you have geared up. The more reliable of the 2 is shown first. Deployment is in the bottom right hand side of the map, with Tangita, Aleph-Null, and Immospec in the front row, followed by Actis and Makotep in the second row. We use Tangita to clear the Tyranids in front of the Neothrope, and that gives Aleph-Null a pocket of space to fly into and use its own active ability. We then position Immospec forward, and it's important to note that we do not actually attack with Immospec. Actis uses his active ability and triggers a cascade of attacks. Makotep follows in the rear guard and finishes off the Neothrope. Remember that we haven't actually attacked with Immospec, and therefore it is able to use its Overwatch ability and kill another enemy unit. On turn 2, Immospec takes the high ground and kills 2 Tyranids with its active, causing a third to flee. The rest of our forces clean up the remaining Tyranids on the left-hand side of the map. Again, a Tyranid flees over here too, but you'll note that we still had 2 full character activations left over at the end of this fight, and therefore this should be replicatable even without the RNG. For the alternate composition, we have Thutmose instead of Immospec. Pretty similar ideas here. We clear the space for Aleph-Null to summon on the Neothrope, but the positioning for Actis is slightly different. We still use Actis' active ability on turn 1 to deal a lot of damage to the surrounding Tyranids. This composition takes advantages of Thutmose's active and passive abilities to finish off a bunch of Tyranids on the right flank. We again benefit for some fleas, but have some leftover turn activations at the end of battle, so there is some leeway in terms of completing the battle with this team composition. Epic 1 brings a team of Exeter Row, Aleph-Null and Actis from left to right. Row moves far up on the left-hand side to draw down the enemy Ripper Swarms as well as the Tyranid Warrior. The remainder of our forces keep up by moving into the middle. We move Aleph-Null first on turn 2 and this causes a heal on Exeter Row. Aleph's summons target an enemy Ripper Swarm, killing it and moving Exeter Row forwards. Exeter Row then uses his active ability on the Tyranid Warrior. If you crit here, it's an easy walkover, but the more likely event is that you don't crit and end up with a scenario as shown on screen. It's fruitless attacking the Tyranid Warrior on turn 3 as it has the reinforced Hive node, so we finish off the 2 Scarab Swarms by repositioning our units and using Actis's active ability. On our final turn, it's simply a case of making sure our units are healthy before ending the fight. Epic 2 uses Tangita, Actis, Immospec and Aleph-Null as positioned on screen. It's a pretty easy fight, with Tangita and Actis summoning some Skitarii on the left while the Necrons accompany them. Immospec's Overwatch finishes off a few more Tyranids before we clean up the remaining forces with our main characters. As I said, it's not too challenging of a level, just make sure that your units are all healthy before the end of the fight. For Epic 3 we bring 5 units positioned in the butterfly shape on screen: Aleph-Null, Makotep, Exeter Row, Tangita and Actis. Exeter Row moves forward first and uses his active ability to kill a Barb Gaunt. Aleph-Null follows closely behind and summons onto the Tyrant Guard, finishing it off with the help of Exeter Row. We spend the rest of our first turn moving our units around to keep triggering more attacks from Exeter Row and end up killing the bulk of the stronger Tyranids. The remainder of the fight is pretty easy, maintaining our usual philosophy: make sure your units are healthy before ending the fight. For the final legendary node, all of our characters are no stronger than Gold 1, with the exception of the quest character, Aleph-Null, who is automatically scaled to Diamond 3. We move forward as shown on screen and summon with Tangita. Once the Winged Prime is closer to our main forces, we use Exeter Row's active ability on it. In combination with our remaining mechanical units, we're able to take out the largest threat on the battlefield. The remaining Tyranids should be fairly easy cleanup while being mindful of keeping your units healthy and topped up. That's all we've got for today. Hopefully it was useful. I've taken some of your feedback on board for this quest, so please keep it coming so that I can improve my product. If you are a newer player who hasn't yet used their referral code, I would love if you could consider entering mine as shown on screen. It earns you 100 Blackstone and supports me in the work that I do. It is single use though, so choose who you support carefully. Bye for now.
Doo-doo-dee. It's Nandi!